to take this opportunity to welcome you today to the Joan S. Hult Women's History Lecture. This is an important tradition that we have here in the Department of Kinesiology, and today we are honored to have both Dr. Joan Hult with us and our guest speaker Brenda Frese with us today. I'd like to begin by telling you a little bit about Joan Hult and her legacy here at the University of Maryland. Currently, she is Professor Emerita, and she was a professor in kinesiology with a specialization in sport history from 1968 until 1996. And during that time, she was a remarkable advocate for women's athletics. She also coached the women's tennis team at that time in Maryland. In her early years, particularly in her own college career, she was an all-around athlete. Joan received a BS from Indiana University, a master's in education from the University of North Carolina at Greensboro, and a PhD from the University of Southern California, where she studied with the preeminent scholar in the philosophy of movement, Eleanor Metheny. Prior to completing her doctoral degree, she literally launched the women's athletics at Concordia College, Moorhead. Current Concordia College Director of Athletics, Larry Pappenfuss, has this to say about Dr. Hult, quote, "Many women point to Joan as their role model as they work to promote women's athletics in the 60s and 70s. She was a pioneer at this school and in the Association of Intercollegiate Athletics for Women. The NC2A looked to women like Joan and the organizations they founded to build a framework for the women's programs we enjoy today. Talk to her for 5 minutes and you get a glimpse of the passion and the fire that ignited the flame of women's sport in this country." End quote. Dr. Hult was a strong supporter of Title IX gender equity in sport legislation and a member of the Intercollegiate Athletics for Women, or the AIAW. While at Maryland, she authored a book on her passion, and that was Basketball and the Indiana Connection, and the book was titled A Century of Women's Basketball from Frailty to the Final Four. She's published many papers on the history of women in sport, the history of the Olympic Games, and the history of sports in general. In fact, the University of Maryland has an entire library of materials, correspondence, undergraduate and graduate courses, articles, newspaper clippings, publications, and on, all of which cover a range of sports and history and women's history topics. After her retirement, Dr. Hult has remained active in the sports history, and she truly is a role model. And I know that many women would agree with me that we all stand on the shoulders of women like Dr. Hult today. So thank you. Dr. Hult will be. I will now thank you for being here, and I know that you have a few words to say about our guest speaker, but I'm just going to introduce some basic information about Brenda, and then Dr. Hult will do a formal welcome of our guest speaker. As you know, Brenda is a University of Maryland women's basketball coach, and she's a former player at the University of Arizona, from where she graduated with a Bachelor of Arts in Communication in 1993. She later went to Kent State University and received a master's degree in athletic administration in 1995. Before coming to the University of Maryland, Brenda coached Ball State University from 1999 to 2001, where she was selected Mid-Atlantic Conference or MAC Coach of the Year, and at the University of Minnesota, where she was selected as both Big Ten Coach of the Year and as the Associated Press AP National Coach of the Year. She came to Maryland in 2002, our absolute good fortune, obviously. In her 4th year as head coach at Maryland, she won the 2006 Women's National Championship. She also released a book at that time that chronicled the Terrapins' rise to the championships, and that book was entitled Overtime is Our Time. In 2008-2009, she won the Atlantic Conference regular season and tournament championships, a woman's first ACC championship since 1989. She then won the ACC championship title. 4 years later, in 2011-12 season, she was also voted the ACC Coach of the Year, and in 2012 and 2013. While at Maryland, she has coached 4 ACC Players of the Year and 4 ACC Freshmen of the Year. Remarkably, as I know all of us in this room know, she has just completed a perfect conference record in the Big Ten, and Brenda was named the 2015 Big Ten Coach of the Year. Congratulations. And it's pretty remarkable that you're here after, I think Brenda said earlier that she arrived back in town from Ohio at 2 or 3 this morning. So we're particularly pleased that you're here, and thank you for that. Brenda is also, you have 2 young sons, Marcus William and Taylor Joseph, and you've been a wonderful role model for girls and women on this campus for many years. At this time, I'm going to ask Dr. Hult to come up and say a few additional words.
I brought all my toys with me, so you'll have to. First, I have the book. And then, of course, because I am in love deeply with basketball, although Dottie McKnight was a great coach, and so when I arrived, I coached tennis. But I got to play a lot more by that route. Although when when Dottie was coaching and then Chris Weller was coaching, they let me practice, and I'm very good at fouls. And I think I can do better than a lot of the ones we had watching at different times right here in River City. And this book is what makes me love the idea of her speaking to us today, because it's like an honor to me that I get to introduce her. And I had to fight to do that, by the way, because others wanted to. But she is important because of Title IX and our efforts, and that includes an organization that we formed, the really Athletics and Sport Consultants was a corporation, and then we had an Educational Sport Institute, and that included Margarita Rigby, who used to work here, and Barb Ryman, who still is identified with American U, and then Dottie and I. And so we had a great time doing that. That means that Brenda is my star of our success, and even more so because you heard of all what she did. I love the title, Perfect End for Terps. Well, it's the perfect end for me to tell you, be a beacon of light like she is, and certainly listen to her. I could give you a lot more information, but I think it's time for all of us to give a warm, warm welcome to Brenda.
Well, thank you very much for having me. And, you know, I don't know about you, but, you know, I think when you're in college, right, sleep is overrated. You know, and obviously when you get in this profession, you don't sleep until after the season. And obviously you want to continue to keep going longer. Where, you know, my heart goes out to is the passion of this school. I mean, you talk about our band and our cheerleaders. They were rolling in this morning at about 9:30 as they had to bus back. And so, like, I look at as tired as I might be or our team might be, you know, I mean, that's where you're talking about school spirit is, you know, the band and the cheerleaders and just all the selflessness of a team. It extends far greater than who we are. So when I got up bright and early this morning, you know, I have twins, come on. Do you really think I haven't slept in 7 years when you talk about there's 7 now in terms of what we're doing? But I was really excited and fired up to be able to come and be a part of today with all of you. Obviously, I want to start with some fun giveaways. I brought some T-shirts. All right, so you know, I'm going to test your knowledge to see how well you know our team. If you don't know our team, I'm sorry. All right, so could have got a really cool T-shirt. Or anyone watch the game last night? Anyone watch the game last night? Anyone want to firsthand? I see that goes up the final score. Final score.
77, 74.
77, 74. What size are you? Have two mediums, a large, two larges, and an XL, a medium. Anyone have an idea of the amount of total wins right now? A record, total wins in terms of where we're at?
24.
Close. 24. What you say? 27. Close. 30. Got a medium, two larges, and an XL. Medium. All right. There you go. All right. One senior on our team. Do you know her name? Lauren Mincy. XL or a large? There you go. Oh, I'll give you an easy one. Who did we beat last night? Ohio State. Good job. XL or large? Last one's a large, so if you don't want a large, don't raise your hand. If you were listening closely, you would have gathered when I got here. How many years have I been here in Maryland?
13.
Yes, great job. Great job. Nice job. Obviously, I've been spent a lot of time the last 3 days preparing our team, and you can tell right now, I've been in this long enough. When you talk about being in coaching and being a part of so many teams, when you have something pretty special, and obviously, this team has it. I mean, to go, undefeated in conference play, a new conference this season. A lot of people went into this year thinking, lost 5 seniors, you lost your 3-time All-American, 1 senior on your roster, this team doesn't have a shot. And, I think, to begin with, to kind of share with you, that's what makes life so exciting, is that this team didn't allow a bar to be set for them. They went into it like, we're going to set the bar, and we're going to continue every day. I think what's been really fun being a part of this group is that, they don't kind of get too far out ahead of themselves. We've stayed really present, in the moment, just really wanting to work extremely hard and trying to get better. And I think, in life sometimes people can try to set limitations on you, and they can try to set a bar on you. And I think when you're a part of a really special group, you set your own standard. And I think individually, you have that opportunity to be able to do every single day in your life. And then when you get to be a part of something greater that we get to be a part of, a team, it's pretty incredible. When you talk about, this is so much bigger than us. We get to represent the University of Maryland. We get to from a national scale, bring more visibility, just like what our men's team is doing, our women's team is doing. We're really proud of the fact that there's something bigger than us to be able to be a part of. So it's a lot of fun. I think not just to completely talk about, because I'm really excited about this year's team and how much more we have left to be able to give, I'll circle back a little bit in terms of just things that I've learned in my life, and to kind of be able to share with you. And, I'm a Midwestern girl through and through. I grew up in Iowa, so, 5 other siblings, big, strong Catholic family. My parents worked 2 jobs to be able to instill a great work ethic in us to be able to, open up a lot of doors. But I think, the one thing I look at that I learned at an early age is all of a sudden, they put us in a lot of things. I did, I played all these musical instruments. I wasn't very good, but I tried the trumpet, the clarinet, the piano, put us in every sport. I tried every sport, played every sport, 4 sports in high school. And before you know it, all of a sudden there was this connection to basketball. I fell in love with it. And I think the cool thing is that, we expanded, and my family just, gave us a lot of opportunities, wanted us to be well-rounded. Maybe they wanted to get us out of their hair, now that I look back. But it allowed us to go find what our passion was. So I think first and foremost in life, you have to find a passion, all right? I think you can tell, my adrenaline on 4 hours of sleep, I have a passion, all right? And a passion has to do with basketball. All of a sudden, I was this young kid, playing at the YMCA with boys, the girls, and all of a sudden, it's like this little orange ball, became my new best friend. It was something that I loved to be able to do. And so when I was a player, it wasn't a job. I mean, I would get up and work out early in the morning, do 2-a-days. It didn't matter. I wanted to go out and condition and go run and get myself in shape. And so all of a sudden, when you're in high school, you have no idea that these things, this game of basketball is going to open all these doors. Next thing I know, it afforded me a scholarship to the University of Arizona. All right, and again, I don't know, with 6 kids, my parents working, I don't really think they could have afforded for all 6 of us to go to college. So the fact that 3 of us were able to earn scholarships to college to get our education was a really big deal. I think when I went to college, you're trying to kind of like figure it out. Mom and dad are, back in Iowa for me, I'm 26 hours away from home in Arizona. So it was the greatest thing I could have had. I mean, had I, stayed close to home, I don't think I'd be standing here today. For some people, it's a great thing. My husband never left Maryland, and it's a great thing because now we'll never leave Maryland. It's a beautiful thing. And everybody has their comfort zones, but for me, I needed to be able to have that so I could know that I could go and do a lot of different things. When I went to college, you think the world's going to be just amazing. I'm going to go off to college and it's going to be great. Well, you know what? I got off to college my first year extremely homesick, 26 hours away from home. So I had to figure that out and how to adapt. And, we didn't have cell phones. I called home, collect, once a week on Sundays. But I do say, and a short example of that, and I share, when I look back, obviously I'm not that old, to not have a cell phone, but when I look back, the fact that I couldn't call my mom and dad, all the time, although we love our mom and dad, and I mean, they're just the rock in my family, I do think that it allowed me to go through struggles. So if I had a struggle on Monday, I didn't call them collect. Our routine was every Sunday. So usually by the time we got to Sunday, I figured out my struggle. And I think sometimes, as young people, it's easy to go kind of find that lifeline or that support to give you what you want to hear, but it might not be the best thing that you need. Sometimes we can go find what we want to hear, but sometimes we need to go through struggle, all right? We need to figure it out on our own. We don't need someone else to fix it for us. We don't need mom or dad to come in and fix it for us. We need to be adults and fix it for ourselves. So, I think that was huge for me, having to go through homesickness, in terms of what I was going through. I went through 4 surgeries when I was in college and in my career. And when I went through it, I thought, man, this is like the worst thing you could ever go through. I had 2 surgeries. Had them correct, the surgery's done, and I was worse off after the surgery. Go figure. All right, so, I was at a point that, I didn't know where I didn't think I'd ever get into coaching or where my life would be. But I can reflect back now, all right, not when I was going through the struggle, because, you think it's the end of the world. I can reflect back now from those tough situations that I had, that all of a sudden now as a coach, man, do I get freshmen, all right, when they come in with the struggle of homesickness, all right? I mean, I can relate to that, and I'm really tuned into that, all right, knowing what it was like. When players have injuries, all right, I know what that alienation factor looks like and feels like because I lived it. So I think all those experiences that you get to go through allow you later, and you might not know it when you're going through it. You have to kind of trust yourself and your instincts, but you will know later. All right, you'll know later the why behind it. Sometimes you have to be able to trust in terms of what you're doing. But after I left Arizona, I was really fortunate, obviously, to go through steps in coaching. And I think the biggest thing you learn early when you get out, soon you'll be going out into the real world, and you guys have a really competitive world that you're going to be going into. You have to understand, you have to work and you have to pay your dues, all right? It's not going to be instant gratification that you're going to walk out this door and go get a salary of $50,000, $70,000, $100,000, you know, like that. It doesn't work that way. I was a GA, I made $12,000 when I came out of college. I was at Kent State University, all right, $12,000. You know, I'd do whatever the head coach wanted me to do. Photocopy, you got it, I'm your girl, all right? I mean, whatever you need, you know, and you spend those times. You know, my first full-time assistant job, I went to Iowa State. I thought I was rich. I was making $50,000. I got bumped up by year 4. I went 4 years at Iowa State. My 4th year, I got $50,000. All right? So understand, like, there's a process. And, you know, like, you know, when I look at it, you know, when I went from Iowa State to Ball State, all right, tell you too, you know, went to Ball State. I'm glad I didn't skip a step. I'm glad I didn't go Iowa State to Minnesota, which I, you know, later went to Maryland, because I would not have been ready. I needed 2 years to make all these mistakes behind the scenes that nobody else got to see when I was a first-year head coach, so I can look like now, today I have it all together, all right? Because there is a process. And I remember one of the first recruiting calls I made, you know, first-time head coach, call up this recruit. Hi, I'm Brenda Frese from Ball State. I'm Brenda Frese from Ball State. The recruit goes, Penn State? Ball State, Ball State. I knew then if I could recruit to Ball State, I could recruit anywhere. I knew it. And, you know, so, you know, again, I got to spend 2 great years at Ball State. A door opened up in Minnesota, went there for a year. And then, you know, a year later, Dr. Yao, the athletic director here in Maryland, I put a phone call through. And, you know, I had come to this area a lot recruiting, and I always said, like, when I would come here recruiting, I'm like, you couldn't pay me $1 million to live in Maryland. The one time I came in here recruiting, I got on the Beltway, I got lost, I went around the entire Beltway. that was just miserable. And, but all of a sudden, you know, that door came open, I looked at it, I listened, you know, and I came out here. And as soon as I walked in, to then it was Comcast, now Xfinity, they were just building it. You know, I walked in with a hard hat, goggles with Dr. Yao, saw the student section, we were on the wall, and I had chills. I was like, we can win a national championship here. And you know what, I'm young enough, we can win multiple. And just believed in the vision in terms of what took place. So, you know, again, through so many things, I think, you know, in life, you have to, you know, like I talked about earlier, you have to find a passion, okay? You have to have a work ethic, all right? You have to have a work ethic. I'm so proud and fortunate to have had a living example of a work ethic every day with my 2 parents. They worked 2 jobs, you know, so they could support 6 kids. And they still, my dad is 83 years old and he's still working, okay? I mean, I don't recommend that. I'm not gonna be working when I'm 83. But you know, it gets him up out of bed every day, all right? And it's his passion in terms of what he has to do. So you have to have a work ethic, plain and simple, all right? You don't do what this team has done, you know, without having a work ethic. Our team is so diligent, you know, to the process. You know, I told them last year when we went to the Final Four, hey, you know, they typically stay for a summer session, and last year they had stayed for 2. I said, look, you guys don't need to stay for both sessions, all right? Come back for the second. You don't need to be here for the first. They all chose to stay for both, all right? It's a work ethic. It's a mentality in terms of how you have to work. It's not going to be handed to you. When you get out in the real world, it's competitive, all right? It's competitive. You have to work. You have to work. You also have to be a team player, all right? You have to be selfless. What I love about this team are our hashtag is United We Can this season. All right, United We Can. And when you look at our team this season and how it has unfolded, you know, we've had a consistency factor, which you have to have, but every night we've had different players come off the bench and spark us. You know, we've had someone ready to help us on this road game. You know, 3 games in 3 days in the tournament. It's been a different player coming in, starter off the bench that has lifted this team. And so you have to have, you can't have an ego. Our players have made a lot of sacrifices. They've been really selfless, for the good of the team. And I think that's what you have to understand is, team players, selflessness, people that aren't trying to go behind the scenes and get an edge to go up the ladder that way. If you do the right thing every day, if you're a really good person, you're about your team, you work hard, you're humble, it will open up every door that you want. All right, it will open up every door. Do the right thing. I mean, in terms of what you're doing. I think it's also important when you work hard, because we all work extremely hard, is that in your time that you can, that you have fun. All right, that you have fun. You got to be able to find those moments to have fun. And I think one of the things I've always in my life, I always want to be a learner. All right, I'm 44 years young, and did you hear that? Young. 44 years young. And I never I want every day to learn something. Someone I want to learn something. Just I don't want to stop growing. And so I give you an example. In December, I was with a boys coach, prominent boys coach in the area. We were out to dinner after this tournament, and he said to me, he's like, Brenda, what do you guys do with your team to have fun? In the sense of there's only maybe 1 or 2 games a year that you're not supposed to win. When you build your program, it gets to a point that you're supposed to win 25, 30 games that you're supposed to win. What do you do with your team to have fun? And he was sharing with me, obviously, after their road games, they go have ice cream, Dairy Queen, that kind of thing. And, in the past, when I first got here, we would celebrate because we weren't supposed to win those games, so we would celebrate. But then all of a sudden, when we set this bar, I kind of lost track of that. It's just like it did. It was like, this is what we're supposed to do, this is what we're supposed to do. So he really tuned me into this season. So, this season it was his idea and stole his idea after every game, starting in conference play. We started, rewarding our team for different plays, a hard hat mentality, putting the hammer down in the game, the glue to the team, assist maker. We came up as a staff with a lot of awards. I didn't know how it was going to get pulled off, initially when I unveiled it to the team. I mean, it was like, you would have thought our kids were in a candy store, these awards, and then all of a sudden, after 18 conference games, the last 3 games, they looked forward to these awards. And we've been able to celebrate, these many achievements in these games that we're supposed to win. And we've been able to make it fun. So I think it's important that you do find the time to be able to, have fun. We come into the locker room when we have a win and we'll be goofy. And we'll go do something as a staff and we'll celebrate it. And then it started this season, the team would decided to surprise us back. They would do something, go hide in the lockers, or, one time I came in screaming and they had no reaction. I was upset and then they exploded. So the ultimate was last night. We had gotten silly string. They had no idea we came in and we blasted them all over the room with the silly string. So, I do think it is really important to be able to tune in and take those moments, all right? Tomorrow, I'm taking a day off, all right? I think I've earned one. But I think it's important to have balance, all right? I think it's really important. I think in my life, it's taken me a while to be able to learn how important that is. And I think, obviously, when you're juggling what you're juggling, then when you add the element of twin boys, all right, active boys, that are very energetic in terms of what they're doing. It layers you in terms of, but I think the more when you get out there later in life that you can find your balance, whatever that is, music, exercise, reading, movies, it's really important to be able to find. So I do think that, finding those moments are huge. And so, I think, just to kind of give you a snapshot, and I know you guys probably have a lot of great questions. I can't thank our managers enough. They didn't get much sleep last night, so We appreciate everything that you guys do behind the scenes and the selflessness. But, just some nuggets, hopefully that I can, that are valuable to you guys. And I guess I'll open it up to any questions that you guys have. Yeah.
So I was impressed last night with about a minute to go. I can't remember who called the timeout, but you were in the middle of the huddle and you were laughing with them.
I think it's.
Well, I mean,
I can't remember if that was the timeout that I was like, they don't want you to win. They don't, the psyche's really important. I mean, you got high stressed, pressure filled elements, and I think you have to have a pulse, with your team. I mean, in terms of when those moments need to be light, when you need to give them confidence and kind of take some of that pressure off of them. We kind of have this joke on the team. We do this drill that they can't stand, so it's really good. And it's called the free throw ladder. And so, it's X amount of sprints. And so it kind of became a game, a game within a game. When we started having to take pressure-filled free throws, we'd yell out free throw ladder and, kind of lock them in. But I do think it's important that in those situations, your mind can play a lot of tricks on you. And I think it's important that, you really, get your mind centered, take the pressure off so they're not thinking about it. Yeah.
So I heard your boys stayed home to be respectful of their own teams and didn't travel with you. How did that sales pitch go?
It's been pretty cool. My boys went in their first basketball league this winter. We know that it was going to stretch through all of this. And the first time they had a conflict, they're both on the same team. So obviously if they don't make it to a game, they don't just lose one, they lose two of a 7-player rotation. So, the first time they had a conflict, I kind of brought it to them. I was going to layer them if they didn't make the right choice where they needed to be, but I wanted to see if they could make it at 7. And so I gave them, hey, mommy's got a game. You have you have a game. What should you do? And they said, mommy, we need to be at our game because we can watch your game on TV. So, and then fair enough, then we got in the Big Ten tournament. Even my husband had to stay back until yesterday. He was able to fly out. They had games all weekend, and some got pushed back because of the weather. But, my one son, Tyler, told my husband, Daddy, we don't want to be put in this league next year because we want to be at the Big Ten tournament. But it's great. It teaches them teamwork. That comes first. Your team and your responsibilities that you sign up for comes first. Yeah.
First, I'd like to thank you over the years for all the excitement and heart-stopping games, particularly last night.
We planned that last night, by the way.
I happen to work do research in mental health in child and adolescence, and what I've been struck by over the years is how positive you are, and we're finding that positivity makes a big difference with depression and suicide prevention. Can you tell me, compared to other coaches in the women's basketball or field, I've noticed that you seem to have that type, really instill a lot of fun and positivity in coaching. Can you tell us a little bit about how you do that compared to other coaches in college?
Well, I mean, first of all, I believe like when you get into these pressure-filled situations, when you talk about games, nobody on these big stages is trying to mess up. You don't go out trying to fail. So I think it's our responsibility as leaders and mentors to be able to help, navigate through those really stressful situations. And, I don't know, I think when we all look back, I think it's easy to go reach for the negativity card, to go put blame on the officials or blame the coach or, blame, I think that's a very easy way to be able to go in life. But I think, even when there, maybe I might really believe there was a bad call last night, there might have been one, You know, I don't want to go there because then your focus gets directed in that direction, and that's the past. And I think, you know, for us, we try to move through the past really quickly and be present. And because when you allow your mind to go past or future, you're no longer here with us. And so the present is all you have. And I think when you can build the confidence, you can build the positivity, it's contagious, and it's an energy level. And you know, I love the psyche part. I love being wired. You know, we had some players last night, you know, that were struggling, and so like to be able to kind of, you know, try to help in that element, you know, because I want to, you know, I can't perform for them, but I can help up here in terms of a confidence. And I always want, you know, like, you know, when you line up on the floor, that you're the most confident team, that you believe in yourself. And, you know, so again, I think everybody gravitates towards that. I think you want to feel good. You want great energy. It's not to say sometimes that I don't have to get into what we need to do, but I always want to layer it back that when I can, you know, it's funny when, even, you know, now I have twin boys. And so, you know, as a parent, parenting is way harder than coaching. And I find myself when I'm tired sometimes and you get a little negative, they don't respond to that. But when I layer, you know, if I'll take one twin, I'll just gush on this twin of what she's doing. All of a sudden this one, well, Mom, I did this, you know, like, you know, he wants it. And so I think, you know, that is where people want to be layered, you know, they want to know, you know, the positivity of what you feel.
Is there any coaches, Brenda, that really inspired you in terms of how to handle people, or that were examples of?
I want
Yeah.
to repeat that so people back here can hear.
Yeah, the question was, were there any coaches that inspired me? And yeah, I mean, that was one of the things I was going to mention. I think it's really important to have great mentors and great role models. And, you know, for me, I was fortunate, awesome high school coach, awesome college coach. My college coach was a player's coach. And so, you know, I got to see in college what it looks like to have a player's coach and kind of filed that away. One of my biggest influences in coaching was Bill Finley, who's at Iowa State, you know, just lined up with his system, his recruiting style, very personable. So, you know, it was, you know, they were huge influences. And then I think it's important, you know, is, you know, when you're young to find those people to help mentor you and have role models. And then I think when we're older, you know, to be able to help mentor young people, I think we have a strong responsibility, you know, to be there. And so it's kind of cool now when you talk about coaching and the players, you know, that are back. Crystal Langhorne came out with us and was with us at the Big Ten tournament the entire time. Pretty cool when your players come back and are a part of it. You know, Liz Gilchrist was a former walk-on here and now mother, and, you know, sends me a picture of her daughter the other day. And so when you have those different connections going on, those relationships with people, it's huge. That's what it's all about. I mean, you know, the biggest thing when I'm in coaching is like, it's just the people, it's the relationships, it's the dynamics that we get to be a part of every day.
What I forgot to say is, as an academic person, when do you study and how do you study to be a better, and we don't need much better, but in, you know, when you started at this, do you see yourself as a human researcher? You research human characteristics, or academic kinds of things come to you after a while in this? And how much do you help your staff and your staff helps you?
Yeah. Oh, wow. A lot of questions.
Answer the
Yes. I think first and foremost, you're always studying. I am always studying. I don't know it all. Like, I'm nowhere even close. I'm always studying. So even currently, you know, I'll watch, you know, head coach give an interview and watch how they respond to that. I'll watch them on the sideline. You know, I'll read a quote in the paper, you know, like, you're constantly studying. So that never ends. I mean, you know, if it ends, then I'm going to get passed by. All right. If I think I've arrived, if I think that I'm here, no. I mean, you're always working to be able to get better. And I think early, you know, you just want to stay humble and hungry. Like, you know, it's not like, you know, you're embarrassed to ask questions or you're embarrassed to be able to get help. You know, I went to as many coaches clinics as I could go to. I went and got as many coaching books as I could get to, videos, championship videos, picking coaches' minds, you know, and we continue to do that. You know, when you talk about our staff, you know, I have one of the best staffs in the country. And, you know, again, you don't go undefeated if you don't have a staff and, you know, best staff in the country. My director of basketball operations, Libby Ellis there. I mean, if you saw what she was navigating through last night, I mean, it would blow your mind. I mean, to see what she does. But that's the work we put behind the scenes. And I really value, you know, I've always said this, when I watch a game and it's live, it's just my set of eyes. Like, I can't possibly watch everything that's going on. So when we get into a huddle and a timeout, like, I value what my staff has to say. If I go into the timeout thinking something and then I come in and they're all saying the same thing, I know I got it. If I come in thinking something and the four of them are looking at me like, we think this and I'm over here, I'm wrong. So it's a good check, you know, to be able to have. And our staff will laugh. Sometimes we'll get a timeout and I'll say, what do you have? And they'll, you know, I'll be like, they'll say nothing. I'm like, hey, great. Hey, guys, thanks for the feedback. You know, I'll kind of challenge them. Let's go. But it is important. You know, we spend a ton of time together. And, you know, just, you know, the same thing, you know, mentoring back my staff. You know, I was kind of joking with them last night. I have 2 really experienced assistants that have been with me now 7 or 8 years. And then I have a new assistant this year. And so to see these 2, you know, we've gone through championships together at pressure, stress, you know, and they're just rock solid. Like, you know, they've been through this and they know the pressure. But my new assistant, man, he was like this tight last night. You know, I had to calm him down at halftime. Like, hey, you know, we got this, you know, but it's fun. Like that's the process, you know, like to see those different elements of experience and youth, you know, in terms of, and then you learn it. So, you know, it's a process that you want to stay, you know, just in it and stay humble and learn as much as you can. I mean, just learn as much as you can and keep learning. Don't stop learning.
How do you get them to learn new defense? It seems to me your defense is about 80% better than it was, say, 8 years ago.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think that's a byproduct. You know, I had to get better defensively. I loved offense, man. I grew up in Iowa. Like, offense to me, you know, I had to get better defensively. You know, that was an area, you know, I I like to put my focus on offense. And I think, you know, through the years, I've gotten better. I've really, you know, our staff, you know, I challenge them to challenge me, you know, to help me in terms of when we see different elements. The staff has been really phenomenal with that this year. And so that's made it fun.
Well, could you talk a little bit about, it has always seemed to me that you and your teams have enjoyed being underestimated, and that you consistently are. I mean, I was watching the Michigan State game the other day, and the commentators wouldn't shut up about aerial powers, right? And they weren't really, there wasn't a single individual on the Maryland team that they could really sort of focus in on, because this team is such a team. But it just seems to me that generally y'all get underestimated, and that you manage psychologically to take great advantage of that. Is that?
You know, I like that chip on the shoulder kind of mentality. And I think because you want to continue to keep your kids wired. You know, sometimes I think you can get stagnant, complacent, you know, or think, you know, different steps. And I think for us, it's just, you know, kind of even finding an edge. You know, how do you find an edge last night when, you know, everybody's predicting you're supposed to win? You're supposed, you know, going undefeated, you're the 1 seed, you're supposed to win. Well, in game at whatever point, you know, I use with with my team. You know, they don't want us to win. You know, they don't want to see another championship come from it. You know, you kind of find those different wirings in those moments to kind of just, you know, especially when you're 3 games in 3 days, you're fatigued. You got to find something up here to, you know, really, you know, kind of bring that out in terms of that mentality of like, what more are we playing for? It's easy to relax. We've already won a regular season title. You know, how bad do you want a championship title? You got to kind of find those little moments when you can, I think.
Thank you.
Well, thank you guys very much.